Good afternoon. It is Monday, September 21st. The stock market was down again today. Who would have thunk it? So I hope you got a chance to look at the Friday video. I didn't get it edited and up until this morning. So you got a quiet weekend. But everything that I've been saying was going to happen is starting to happen. We aren't getting anything else out of the government. We aren't getting anything else out of the Fed. Trade policies are breaking down left and right, and the second wave of coronavirus is clearly upon us as new cases and deaths and hospitalizations tick up all over the world, but especially in America. So we are likely to see a pretty rough end of the year, and you ought to buckle yourself up now. So I'm going to be working on the plug and play list for Q4, and one of the main things I'm doing is just trying to upgrade this list and this list, the dividend list, so it's nothing but A stocks. I'm going to get rid of 2 or 3 in each category or each list, the growth and dividend. Dynavax is going to be gone. You're not going to need speculation. So anything that you're speculating on, unless it's a short, you should probably get rid of it, unless you truly have some deep insights into what's going on in the company, what the catalyst might be. As I've been pushing more and more, is this idea that the winners are the winners. And that's just the way it is. And growth is going to lead, and it's probably going to lead for decades. Are there going to be 10-minute breaks when people start to talk about value? Sure. I saw some idiot pretend CIO on Bloomberg today talking about value investing, and she is just an imbecile. But in days past, hey, she would have been a big deal. But she subscribes to Bloomberg for $20,000 a year, and one of the perks of being a Bloomberg terminal subscriber is if you ask them to go on air, they'll throw you on air. So it's basically $20,000 commercial. Bet you didn't know that's how it worked. That is how it worked. That's why I'm not on Bloomberg, but I've been on Fox Business and the Wall Street Journal and things like that. Because Bloomberg requires you to pay them $20,000, and then you're on their list. So taking a look at the plug and play, Alibaba is the only Chinese stock that I want. Don't ask me about other Chinese stocks. I will tell you this, if you do, they're Chinese. Screw them. You don't want them, you can't trust them. Why would you invest in something that you have no idea what is going on at that company or what is going on with that government? The only reason I invest in Alibaba is because the cloud is so big and so fastly growing in Asia. And Alibaba is a clear leader with really no even competition there. And it's essentially a monopoly. That's why you want Alibaba. It is the Amazon of Southeast Asia, and it is growing way faster. Now, could the Chinese government still screw us? Probably, but Jack Ma is a pretty smart guy. I always wondered why he incorporated the way he incorporated in the Cayman Islands. And I think after years of figuring it out, because he was a step ahead of the Chinese government. So I don't know that the Chinese government has the leverage on Alibaba that they have on everybody else. Because if they started to push on Alibaba, what would it take for Alibaba to pull the plug on their cloud? Think that through. So I think Alibaba has a leg up on the Chinese government, and that is the only reason that I want to be invested in them at some point. So when we take a look at that chart, we are looking for an entryway. We're not there yet. Clearly, there was an opportunity that we missed. C'est la vie. One of the other things that I've wanted to point out repeatedly, and as we're getting new subscribers again, especially as I got 5 articles ready to publish, so we'll end up with more subscribers, we should get a correction. And my guess is we need to buy around 200, but there's a possibility it can come all the way back down to the middle 100s. We'll see. But around 200 is what I'm thinking. Could even be up to here. So 225-ish. Yeah. Notice that it hit that 618 fib level corrected and then broke out. So if this is a true breakout, and I'm anticipating that it probably is, we might not get a chance to get below this area here. So this might end up being price range we have to buy. Now, what do I think the upside on Alibaba is? It's substantial. Just think Amazon. I don't think it would take much for this to be a $500 stock. So we can buy it around 200. We're probably doing a pretty smart thing. Over on the very short list, you'll notice that today I started to update a bunch of the ETF charts. Just look for an update. If there's a date over here, just check the date. So that's all I'm doing is, I'm not going to even bother writing the word update anymore. But you can go ahead and check. Since we're on stocks, let's take a look at Berkshire Hathaway, which I updated today. These guys have a pile of cash. They got in on Snowflake. It means you don't have to. Let them absorb the risk, of which there is plenty in the short run. But if we can get this on a pullback to around 200 bucks, probably a pretty smart thing. Here's a 618 line, coincides with a longer term fib. Notice that Berkshire Hathaway basically stopped at this top Fibonacci level. It has been correcting a little bit in the last week. I don't know how far it'll come down. I would think around 200. This level here, these are not real big fib levels, but there is a confluence. And this is a 618 line here, and that's a 0.5. And these are important levels. The 618 is the level that repeats over and over and over again. So if you're looking at the right time frame, and you have a 618 in a confluence with other levels from other time frames, extensions versus retracements, often that is a pretty important level. So we could actually even, for the aggressive person, move this all the way up to a little over 200. My orders for my clients are in at 190, and that doesn't mean that I won't change it to 195 or 170. But somewhere in this orange box is what I'm anticipating, because I do believe that the end of 2018 and the end of 2020 are going to end up looking a lot alike. Markle doesn't compare to Berkshire. Ignore all those stupid advertisements. If that was actually a good question, you would have asked me about the underwriting or something like that. So what is behind that question? Somebody asked about Markle versus Berkshire. And there's been, Motley Fool's been running an ad about Markle being the next Berkshire literally for a freaking decade. So before you ask a question like that, and maybe you have a deeper approach, you shouldn't just be asking Markle versus Berkshire. You should be asking this, and this at Berkshire versus that, and that at Markle. Why would you lean one way or the other? Which one has the better catalyst? Which one has more strength? Which one has more cash flow? I've been left with a shortage of patience, 2 weeks of being laying on a goddamn couch. So as we go through this, you'll see that today Ford pulled back a little bit. What we're looking for is a breakout on Ford that brings it all the way back to all-time highs. Just getting to all-time highs is 500%. So it pulled back a little bit today on the start of a correction maybe. You might be able to get it down around $4 a share. I doubt it, but maybe. I still think you should be building your Ford position. What they're going to do to Tesla in the next 2 or 3 years is going to blow people away. Not only are they going to sell out their capacity on EVs, but they're going to oversell their book. They are setting up their launch for the Mustang, the F-150 so well that I just think it's going to blow people away. They're holding back the number of reservations they're willing to take on the Mustang Mach-E, and they're going to way oversell it. And when they finally make the announcement that they're going all EV for the small vehicles, they're going to be a darling. Robinhood's going to molest them with 4 share purchases, 1.5 share purchases by $10 and $20 investors. It's going to blow your mind. That's right, Robinhood. I'm making fun of Robinhood. Why would you? Got a bunch of people who live with their roommates, but they're telling us how to invest in stocks. So Apple, I have a little bit of a change of heart on Apple. So one of the things I've been able to do as I sat here with freaking coronavirus is read a lot. And I went back and read an article that I wrote about our Apple 7 or 8 years ago. Everything that I said Apple was going to do, they did. They gradually became the #1 player in wearables, beating out Fitbit. Their services revenue took off. This is where I told everybody to buy Apple. It was like June of 2013 or something. And they all told me I was nuts. $57 a share split adjusted. So that would be divided by 4, about $15 a share. Imagine having a cost basis of $15 a share on this. Feel pretty good. I, of course, sold it when it got to 200 because I'm an imbecile. And here's what I think is going to happen to Apple. And I mentioned it on chat boards. Apple is going to dramatically increase their market share. Well, how can they do that? Well, it's pretty easy, actually. And if I have the chart still available, I will show it to you. Maybe not. So Apple is about 40-some-odd% of cell phones in the US, but only about 25% globally. What if Apple and Samsung flip? What if demand for privacy in a 5G world matters to the point where people start thinking about Apple like they did RIM back in the day with the BlackBerry? Do you remember why you used the BlackBerry? I remember why I used the BlackBerry. It was secure. Remember back in the early days of cell phones, sometimes you pick up some noise from somebody else's call in the back of your call? Yeah, that didn't happen with BlackBerry. So with Apple, they're focusing on privacy. And their technology allows them to provide the type of privacy that even the FBI gets irritated with. I think that Apple is going to flip spaces with Samsung. I think that not only is Apple going to become the majority owned phone in the world, it probably gets to like 60 or 70% in the US. So that means another huge product cycle is about to begin as people buy their 5G phones. And then there's Apple wearables and earphones, and what's going to stop people from jumping to a MacBook the next time they decide, hey, I'm going to buy a laptop, but I want something that converts to a tablet, and I want something that talks to my iPhone seamlessly, and I just want everything to work together and be super easy, and I don't want to have to learn multiple systems. So I am going to buy Apple shares individually, not just through QQQ. And I am probably actually going to buy Google and Amazon as well. Facebook is the only one that I'm not so sure that I want, because I think what everybody else is doing is chipping away at them. And ultimately, I think Facebook has to spin off Instagram. I think they're going to be forced to do that. So Facebook's the only one in that group I don't like. And while it would be nice to own QQQ, there's enough in QQQ that I'm probably just going to select a basket of 7 or 8 or maybe 10 of those companies that I want to own individually. I don't really want any of the biotech stocks, so I think those all are going to get creamed. I don't even know that I want Visa and MasterCard anymore, because the PayPals and Squares of the world are going to beat them. What do you need a credit card for anymore? The rest of the world is already going away from credit cards, but in America, we're still addicted. But you tell me, what would it take for you to just do it electronically with your phone, right? If you could just touch an icon, an app on your cell phone to pay, would you do it? People have been asking you for years. I think that we're right on top of that finally. Took a while, but I think Visa and MasterCard start to get cut out. And I think their fees come down dramatically. And that's a product of blockchain too. So Visa and MasterCard are bastardizing their own business. They're getting cannibalized. I would be very careful thinking that Visa and MasterCard are the future. The future is PayPal. The future is Square. The future is Apple. There's a bunch of futures with Google. And eventually, Amazon is going to do a strategic transaction and spin off their AWS. And when they spin off AWS, it's going to be a monster. I would expect that we want a piece of that when it gets spun off. So how low can Apple go? That's a tough question because Berkshire owns it. And I had thought that Berkshire might trim, and maybe they have here. However, Warren Buffett called Apple their fourth business. So I wouldn't expect him to trim too much. You know, maybe he looked for a little cash to, you know, buy that natural gas pipeline, but maybe not. I see what's going on here. There's a possibility that Apple bounces like the next day or two, but it could also come all the way back down here. Whoops. All right. Price with a 70 handle is, I think, our target. Two important levels here, the middle of a support range. And the way that the numbers model out, if I'm right about Apple gaining that much market share, is their profits will triple. Think that through for a minute. Apple's profits might triple in the next 5 years. You don't need, somebody just said, I'm going to use the credit cards until the points go away. You don't need Visa and MasterCard to do that though. Why does it have to be through Visa and MasterCard? What do those plates mean anymore? Why does my Amazon Visa have to be an Amazon Visa? Why can't it just be an Amazon card and that's where I get my points? Think that through. That's right. Apple Card gives points and it's basically Apple Pay. That's exactly right. Visa and MasterCard are imminently threatened. Imminently. In the next year or two, when Apple says to them, hey, we don't need you anymore, and Google does the same thing, right? Those payment networks are obsolete. They're unnecessary. Remember when people would run around small business, hey, I give you a better processing deal on your credit card. Who needs that anymore? The rest of the world's already gone away from it pretty heavily. We're dinosaurs here. The dinosaurs died. Visa and MasterCard have headaches coming. They don't do anything other than serve as a middleman. And what happens to middlemen who don't have a definitive edge? They get cut out. I don't think there is a baby Apple out there. Well, except maybe they spin out a healthcare company, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Call them seeds. Let's call them seeds. When is there going to be Apple seeds? I don't know. I mean, they already make private equity-like investments. So, anyway, again, I told you I'm not going to keep you long today, but I'm updating this list this week. CenturyLink is now Lumens. What did I tell you about CenturyLink? Why would they do what they're doing? Because they're going to sell part of the company. They're going to knock down their debt dramatically, and they're going to be an enterprise and fiber company. I don't know who's going to buy the residential side. I don't know. But it would make sense for one of the big cable providers to do it, because the big cable providers could cut a deal with CenturyLink, buy the business, and then cut a deal on fiber and expand. And then CenturyLink would be getting paid, Lumens would be getting paid twice, right? They'd be getting paid to sell their residential business. And then that residential business could be hosted over their fiber where the cable company didn't have a line. It makes a lot of sense to me. AT&T, I'm telling you, Warner Brothers just keeps getting sexier. Lam Research, keep an eye on that. That already came down. Morgan Stanley today said that NASDAQ could come down over 20% from its peak. Remember, those are the V-shaped recovery guys over there at Morgan Stanley. Just gonna let you know who Morgan Stanley is. Morgan Stanley are the asshole frat boys who couldn't get a job at Goldman Sachs. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. Morgan Stanley is the B team. Morgan Stanley asked me if I wanted them to help me manage bond accounts a while back. So much snot flew out of my nose when I laughed at them that I had to clean up my keyboard. Morgan Stanley is a junk company. If you watch these guys on TV, they have different people saying different things no matter what is going on, so that one of them can claim to be right. Roku. I'm telling you, Roku is going to make a fortune being the other Apple distributor. That's right. At some point, It's either going to be Roku and Apple in a duopoly for streaming services, or Apple's just going to buy Roku or cut a deal with them. But I think, as much as I will tell you, I have Roku TVs, and I am hesitant to switch everything to Apple for one reason and one reason only. I just don't want to spend the goddamn money, right? But there are a lot of people out there who are Apple everything. And if I build a house, which I'm planning to do, but I figure I got lots of time to do it because I don't know where in the world I want to be in 10 years. But if I do build a house and I just want it to all be uniform, I'm going to have an Apple house. I've seen the Apple stuff. I've seen what their houses are going to look like, right? They were at CES. It wasn't even Apple. It was a distributor. They had Apple stuff. Pretty sure that's what it was. I don't think it was actually Apple. But when houses get built in the future, somebody's dropping $600, $800 million, you know, building a house. You think they're going to run speaker wire after they move in? They're going to have a TV that comes out of the ceiling or out of the floor, or out of the wall, or, you know, materializes from something. I don't know. But it's going to be an Apple. It's going to be a Roku. So they come popping out of a picture on the wall that you thought was old Uncle Harry there sitting over the fireplace. Oh no, that's a TV too. And it's a telephone. And it's Jarvis. We are so close to this stuff that we need to look for the duopolies or the oligopolies, because that's where the big money is, right? The big money is where a big important market is controlled by only a handful of players. DRAM, semiconductor chips, right? Microns, Samsung, I always forget who the hell is, SK Hynix. So Micron sniffed the top of our buy zone, and then it shot up. Damn, I'm just gonna have to call these guys and tell them to fix my whole system. Just got here. It's gonna get back down there again. I don't know. That 618 line kind of repelled it. So I think we almost have to raise this to here. But we'll see. We'll see how bad things get here in the fourth quarter. If you're not expecting a shitstorm, go take a look at the charts from 2018, or maybe I'll show you. So we had this rally on the tax cuts and the cheap oil. 2018, all of the economic numbers froze. You know, that's something that doesn't get talked about, is in 2018, all the economic numbers stopped getting better. The rates of change all turned over, and a lot of numbers, ISM numbers in particular, stopped getting better. And then there was some sort of liquidity issue. We got the spring volatility event, and then the fourth quarter just fell out of bed. If this doesn't look like a setup to just fall out of bed, I mean, that's a shape that if you've been looking at charts long enough, you look at this shape and you go, ah, shit. I mean, that's what you should be thinking is, ah, shit. So to see a line, let's see. I just need a line. Give me a line. A line, trend line here. That's what I want. I just want a trend line. To see stuff go like this, and I don't necessarily mean Micron. Could be. I mean, it wouldn't even be that big of a deal. It's just a round trip. Resistance, jitterbug, breaks out. Hits it again. Almost hits it again. But the new trend here is higher lows. So there's a possibility Micron stops about there, 36-ish. So I have the box where I have the box. Just got to look at these things. Understand that structure. What would it take to break that structure? Bad. That's the answer. The answer is bad. What would it take for that to go lower? Something bad. It's a good enough answer. Something bad is a good enough answer. Who cares what it's going to be? If people start cashing in their 401ks in the next couple of weeks, you're going to notice. So my guess is somewhere in here on Micron. I was hoping to get it at 36. Maybe I can't. But somewhere under 40 is my guess. 42-ish, probably about the most I would pay. But 36, it looks pretty juicy at 36. Somebody asked, why did I change my mind on Dynavax? Well, did I really change my mind on Dynavax? What was my opinion of Dynavax? What was my opinion of Dynavax? Well, that's right. Damn right. I called it a lottery ticket. That's all it is a lottery ticket. Their legacy business is mediocre. It's enough to keep it in business. But they have a couple of partnerships on COVID stuff, you know, that give it about a 1 in 50 chance of making a bunch of money. If it hits, it goes straight to the moon. I mean, it goes to 50. So I'm not saying you can't own it. Just saying understand why you would own it. You own it on the chance that it hits a lottery ticket, that the numbers come up, oh my God. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. And it might be cheap enough to buy a lotto ticket. I don't own any. I'm just telling you, remember, I manage other people's money. But if you wanted a lottery ticket, if you wanted something off of the speculative list, right? I have it on speculative, right? Kind of roll the dice. Oh, crapped out. In fact, this shouldn't even be there anymore. They should be over on this list. Small cap. I think that TA has been showing us a lot of underlying strength. I don't know what the hell they're listed under. Healthcare America, American Express, Travel Centers America, Consumer Discretionary. I don't even know how they get these things. Why is that consumer discretionary? It's truck stops. Okay, so let's chart this one out. Remember how I found this company? I saw that Warren Buffett started buying truck stops. And it happened at a time when I was thinking to myself, hey, truck stops would be a good idea. And then Buffett went and did it. So I was like, what the hell? All right. Sometimes you have a good idea, and it gets validated, and you're like, well, God damn it. I didn't want somebody that rich to start buying stuff I wanted. At some point, I'm going to own a truck stop at some rehab shopping mall with a lake view. And I'm going to be that 90-year-old dude puttering around. You're like, who's that dude? And you're thinking, well, he's pushing a broom. Must need the money. Nope. You know who I'm going to be? I'm going to be that asshole at 5 in the morning making biscuits at a McDonald's that you don't know is the owner, who owns 5 McDonald's and makes $15 million a year. Right? The guy's freaking Heisenberg, but without the meth. I know that guy. There's a guy where I used to go take my kids to McDonald's when I got divorced, and I'd have to get there early. So my ex-wife would drop the kids off, and we'd have breakfast and play in the little bubbles. Then I'd get them to school. You know, the whole pain in the ass sort of thing that happens when you get divorced. And that little old man would be there when I'd get there. And eventually he'd just start bringing me a coffee. How you doing, Kirk? I had no idea who he was. I just thought, okay, well, this is an old dude. He's managing in the morning because, you know, he's old and gets up early. I didn't know he was the owner for over a year. So one of my poker buddies showed up because he liked the pancakes at McDonald's. It was Kirk. I was like, Todd. Oh, you know the owner. I was like, do I? In any case, Travel Centers America, look where it was. A lot of bad things happened, right? Does it matter what happened from here to here? What do we know happened? It was bad, right? It was bad. Let's take a look at where this can go. Think about all those stores becoming profitable. Think about them being the place that people stop with their EV or the hybrid to charge. What happens if semi-trucks end up, instead of doing hydrogen, they start swapping out batteries? And there's a machine, they pull into the garage, and it goes ching, 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 new battery just installed underneath, right? Underneath. Pull one battery out, put a new one in. You're charged. Go get your donut and your coffee. See you later. Or what if they need hydrogen, right? Either way, the truck stops win. They're very valuable. There's not enough rail line in America to switch from the trucks to the rail lines. Can't be done. Trucks are going to be around forever. And when Biden wins by 10 million votes, and he changes the immigration rules, and he allows 9 or 10 million people in the next 4 years, 5 years, Just think about how that impacts everything when it comes to logistics. The economy is going to grow again because we're going to let 10 million people in here. You should be preparing for what's coming. If you still think that Trump has a chance, it's only because you think that he might cheat, because that's his only chance is to cheat. The only way for Trump to win is if he rigs things. That's what this Supreme Court nomination is about. Talk about the hypocrisy. In any case, this is a backdoor play on a lot of things. Changes to the transportation system, immigration, the electrification of the grid, right? People sleeping in their cars, and then they have to pull off the road to recharge, so they take a shower and they eat. Why did Warren Buffett buy a couple of the two big truck stops in America? So here's one on a correction, that if you can get this, in here somewhere, and I'm going to redraw this one. Once it breaks out, you just look at where these lines go. It is not hard to see this being $100 stock. That's why you want to understand the businesses. And then you see these charts and you're like, okay, why did somebody real accomplished decide that they'd like to be involved in this? Because that's what happened. All right. I have a lot of charts to update. Any particular questions? Anything you want to see? Anything on your very short list? No? All right, let's finish up with Exxon. Exxon can get down somewhere around 30 imminently. There is no support for Exxon until it gets to around 30, 28 maybe even. I am going to take my profits soon, probably at about $33 per share on my shorts, unless it's plunging. I was reading the Exxon reports, and I would encourage you to take a look at their investor presentation. It is a comedy routine. It is. Think of all the shit that Exxon has lied about for decades. And then take a look at their investor presentation. Clear your mind, think about all the stuff they've lied about, and then read the investor presentation. And if you don't get irritated to the point where you start to laugh, then you're not thinking about it clearly. The phrases that they use in that report, in fact, I think I might even still have it up. Yeah. Look at these dumb assholes. All right. So global population grows by 1 billion people. 5 people enter the middle class every second, expanding to include more than 5 billion people. Next page. Global population grows by 1 billion people. 5 people enter the middle class every second, expanding to including more than 5 billion people. Global population grows 1 billion people. 5 billion people. Ah! Dude, Exxon is a piece of shit company run by a piece of shit with a board of directors full of pieces of shit that are going down to $10 a share. I just don't know how fast. My guess is they get in here, and then they're going to have to cut the dividend because they can't deliver on anything that they're talking about. Nothing. The numbers that they put in here are such horse shit. They're lying to people's faces and getting away with it. Why? Because I have embedded gains in Exxon. I made all kinds of money in Exxon in the 80s and 90s. Hey, oh, look, round trip. No money in 20 years, right? No. Yeah, you go ahead and buy Exxon at 30. I double dog dare you. Double dog dare you to buy Exxon at 30. Maybe I'll buy it from you at 9. Look at that. That is a perfect head and shoulders. And it fell off a cliff when I told you it was going to fall off a cliff. It's just going to keep falling. I mean, it'll jitterbug at some point. And then you'll get all the idiots on Seeking Alpha, like HFIR. Yeah, Exxon's ready, man. This is amazing. It's ready. Yeah, it's ready. You know, I took my lumps on oil stocks. Granted, I made millions of dollars first, and then I just gave a bunch of it back. Right? I'm talking about millions of dollars for other people. When Biden wins, that could be the catalyst to send this one over, right? So in managing the options on this, my puts are January 40 and January 42.50 puts. I'm up about double on both of them, right? I think that if you get a couple of up days here, where it goes up, you know, like $1 one day, because somebody's like, oh, look, there's a storm. Ooh, so scary for oil. There's a storm. don't worry about the fact that we have more oil than we'll ever use, and Saudi Arabia needs money, so they're never going to let shale come back, right? Exxon invested all that money in shale, and Exxon has some drilling going on in Guyana and Suriname that's mediocre, and if oil ever gets to $80 a barrel, it's a good investment, right? Saudi Arabia and the Middle East are never, ever, ever letting deep water and shale come back, ever. If there's an uptick in supply short term, OPEC will fill it. And you know what? When Joe Biden is president, he's going to let them. You know why? Because that's the only thing that keeps there from being another war in the Middle East. Let them produce the oil and stay out of poverty. We can give 300,000 people who are in the oil sector new jobs. It's got to happen either way. Bundle them in with the coal guys, ban the export of coal, and tell anybody in the fossil fuel industry, hey, we've got a GI Bill for you. If you want to switch careers, here's a freaking grant. And by the way, you qualify for additional unemployment benefits so that you don't lose your house or your kids don't go hungry. If you'll notice, we can do that. This stuff is going to change so fast, starting by the end of the year. It's going to make your head spin. I've been hinting at this since January. The clock is ticking. The one piece of Exxon that's going to be worth something is the natural gas and the natural gas pipelines. So when they split this company up, keep an eye on how they do it, because there will be some pieces worth something, and there'll be some other pieces that are just lumps of shit. So right in here, I'm taking profits because that's the easy money that's been made. Then if it gets a rally, especially if it gets close to 40 again, then I can buy new puts. So I might even trade the same puts that I had, sell them, buy them back, something like that. So with that in mind, finish up with, if you're on margin of safety investing, I brought back swing trading. So it got hard for me to be in 2 chat rooms. I'm going to keep doing it. But anybody who switched from margin of safety investing over to fundamental trends, if you want to come back to margin of safety investing, I'm going to include everything with this service. I'm just going to raise the price next year. Let me know that you want to switch back. I'll give you a 50% forever discount to do it. And, if you prefer to not be in 2 places, I don't care. I'm going to rehab fundamental trends a little bit at some point. And when I start publishing on MarketWatch, investing.com, and Benzinga, which have all invited me, probably a month from now, those are the people who will be over at fundamental trends. So if you're a margin of safety person, if you are a seeking alpha person, everything that you want is going to be over here, right? They've got the better chat technology. I haven't paid for it yet over at Fundamental Trends. I will eventually get this exact same thing over at Fundamental Trends. I just haven't done it yet. So for the sake of ease, if you want to have everything that you have at Fundamental Trends over at Margin of Safety, I switched to Earl Grey tea, by the way. It's pretty good. Yeah. Watched Picard all those years, and I never bothered to even try it. I always just drank green tea for like 30 years. And still got the Rona. Drank green tea and still got the Rona. So I noticed, I pulled up on Stockover the 10-day returns. Look how much these are down in 10 days. They got a lot further to go. So any bounces in these oil stocks, if you're looking to short something, right? And if you hear me now, but will believe me later that Biden's going to win by 10 million votes, you're going to still want to shorten these. One last thing, I guess. Gold. If you own GDX right now and GLD, you need to make sure that it's the right percentage of your asset allocation, right? No more than 15% of your total net worth. And I don't think it hurts to take any profits off the table. So if you're in for 10 grand and it's worth 15 grand now, pull 5 grand out, right? I think that GDX is going to get to upper 30s all the way down to 30-ish, somewhere in that box. So I do still think it's going to get up here because these companies are just going to, they're already just printing money. But, it got pretty far ahead of itself. So how far down could it come? I think 30-ish. See where hit there, it jitterbugged a couple times, and then it finally broke out. I think right in here, 30, 31, 32. So if you don't care that it could go like this and then before it goes up, then you don't have to trade it. But if you're trying to avoid these 20% diggers, I don't think it's a bad idea to at least trim this, right? Now, I wouldn't get out of it completely, because what happens if it gets to here and then takes off, right? But take your profits out. That's not a horrible idea, right? Now, I have covered calls that are just deteriorating on the time value right now. So I need to be, for that trade to have been perfect, imperfectly perfect. If it gets down into this price range, then everything works out like as good as I can hope. Because then I can either buy back those covered calls for less than I got for them, or I can just buy more GDX. Between GLD and GDX, I still think 15% makes sense. Then having that 5% cash cushion, but as a long-term thing, we're holding more cash now, but long-term 5-ish% cash is pretty typical. So just understand that this probably is going to get into this orange box somewhere. Now, if things really hit the fan, it could go down here. Now, let's say I'm horribly wrong and Trump wins. If Trump wins, then I think gold becomes the best investment. Why? Because his fiscal policies are so bad that we're going to have deflationary pressure with inflationary monetary policy. So, that's the perfect storm for gold. That's why we got what we got, right? Deflationary pressure, inflationary monetary policy. So one of the articles that I'm writing right now is titled The Long War Between Deflation and Inflation. So deflation is demographics, debt, and technology. Inflation is stupid-ass policy. Now, there's a good policy that can fix everything, and unfortunately, that pisses off about 0.25% of the people who have money that they don't deserve, but they want to hang on to it. So, like I said, I keep pointing this number out. I want you to look it up. I don't show it to you because I want you to look it up. The increase in debt in America since Ronald Reagan to today, including the Federal Reserve debt, is almost exactly the same as the increase in wealth of the top 1% of the population. Just think about what that means. That means that we all borrowed that money because technically we're obligated, and we basically, through this, that, and the other means, shifted it all to 1% of the people. So America borrowed $30 trillion, and the richest 1% of the people, their wealth increased $26 trillion. That's about what the numbers are. And in fact, I think it's worse than that, because just think about what Jeff Bezos is worth. So, in any case, just be careful with your gold. It's a very good hedge for Trump. It becomes less valuable under Biden. The real economy. I'm also irritable because I played in a poker tournament last night and I came in 10th because my ace king got cracked by an ace jack that had a jack on the river. And I'm tired of being sick. Not that we're going to buy XLI. Not much anyway. But it's a very good proxy for what's going on out there. So if we can get XLI in a very specific range, yeah, I guess we could take a look at it. 618 line. There we go. So that's the Armageddon scenario. This is the most likely thing to happen, I think. Like I said, I'm not positive with all the money that's been printed, borrowed. Not really printed, technically borrowed. Not sure we set new lows. We'll see. Biden wins, this is where we buy. Trump wins, hold off, because the world is going to have a very anti-Trump reaction. And I will tell you this, if there's reports of ballots being stolen, if people in the cities are disenfranchised somehow, I'm telling you, the people in the cities are much better armed than these pretend militias, right? And all these guys who shave their heads. This idea that you want to see a contested election is a very, very bad one, because it will not end well. And a lot of police officers will die which is unfortunate because they're going to be told to get between the two groups. And what should happen is these idiot militia guys came to my state and shot somebody, a couple people, need to be met with force. And I say that because that is the way the people in the city are thinking. If anybody is under the delusion that there isn't a simmering pot here, you need to disavow yourself of that. And if you are going to handicap things, I'm telling you, the winning side is not who you think it is. Because if there's a revolution, and if you don't think that these protests were hints at a revolution, you're missing it. What's happening in the United States right now, there's examples of it throughout history, all over the world, including here 300 years ago. If the election doesn't come off the way I think it's going to come off, which is just a landslide victory for Biden, if Trump somehow rigs the mailboxes, somehow stacks the Supreme Court with people who will give in to him, the violence is going to be off the charts. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to leave the city. I've got a place 4 hours away from Milwaukee that I can go to. So all these boxes, put them in the context of what's going to happen in 45 days. If Trump magically makes up 10 million votes, which is what he's behind right now, through a combination of lawsuits and disallowed ballots, it's going to be brutal. I'm 57% cash right now, and I have hedges on oil stocks. And I'm still short semiconductors, almost back to even. Today I was almost back to even. I actually think that if you really wanted to short something right now, I think semiconductors are awesome. If they're going to go up tomorrow, right? If semiconductors open up, I think you buy January 270 puts right there. Probably get those January 270 puts for $6, $7, $8. In a contested election, this comes straight down, straight down. This is about the easiest insurance that you can buy because the disruption to the global supply chain if Trump wins, right here, look at this confluence of lines. It bounced off once, and then it went through. That's the line. That's the line that I'm short from, right there. For a hot minute today, I was just about even. Trump wins though, man, I'm telling you, it's straight down. So I don't think it hurts you to have some 270s. I think you get, you know, you can take a look. I will say, even with a funny name, Yahoo is awfully cheap, easy to use resource. So these puts are a little bit more expensive than I'd want. But I think that's the right line. 270 is the right one. Got people speculating further out. Because it looks like 200-ish is probably where it goes to pretty fast. You could buy, if you didn't want to spend this much money and you wanted something a little less certain but a lot cheaper, I mean, you could go and buy like these in here. But I think that these are up pretty quick, right? So if it goes from 295, which is where we are now, to 200, that would make this worth 70. It's 500%. She bought the 220s for 4, and it went to 200. Still end up with the same 500%, but a much lower chance of it actually winning, right? Because what if it ends up at 235, right? What if it ends up at this line, right? That's somewhat an important line. So I would say with 270s, that's an important line. I think it's pretty clear it's going to break. Just a matter of how much does it break? How low does it go? Not sure. I guess you need to keep this in mind in case Trump wins. Remember what I said. If Trump wins, his entire rally gets undone. It does. We go all the way back to 2016. So, I mean, really, a Trump victory, you can literally shave 70% off of NASDAQ. I mean, you just got to understand how much the rest of the world hates him. I mean, they pretty much told him to go fuck himself yesterday with the whole Iran thing. They don't care. He's destroying American power doing what he's doing. Because everybody's just like, you know what? If we got 4 more years of this asshole, screw America. That's what's going to happen. And there won't be anything that Trump can do about it. The rest of the world will just say, well, the Americans didn't figure it out. Now they're going to learn. And anybody who doesn't think that that can happen and that it would happen, you need to read more history. Europeans are supposed to be our friends. most of Southeast Asia is supposed to be our friends. And we are not treating any of them well right now. All right. I'm going to be dumping a lot on you guys the next couple of months. At some point, again, if I'm right, Biden wins comfortably, the correction will stop by the end of the year, give or take, probably by the end of the year. The rich are already accumulating cash. I hope nobody still has FOMO. Oh my God, I might move that next one. There might be another move up. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The move up that happened shouldn't have happened. It's a joke, it's a fallacy, it's fake. Work with that. All right, I'll edit this pretty quick and get it up.